Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project in conjunction with Torah Anytime. Today we are joined by Rabbi Dovid Cohen, Rabbinical Coordinator at the CRC, the Chicago Rabbinical Council. Thank you, Rabbi Cohen, for joining us once again.
Great to be here.
We know that traditionally, or at least common knowledge seems to be that pills, and we're talking about tablets specifically with regard to medication, are not a problem because they're not edible. There seems to be discussion, though, among certain segments of the kashrus field that there is a problem when it comes to vitamins and supplements. Why would that be, and what's the difference?
Okay, so in order to answer that question, we have to dig a little deeper into your assumption. You said it's assumed that foods that are not edible are allowed to be, you can eat them even if they're not kosher, and that's the truth. But the Gemara actually adds the Rishonim add a little twist to that. And they say like this: when something's not edible, I can eat it because it's not food anymore. But the fact that I ate it, the fact that I chose to eat it, shows that I consider it that it is edible. Why else am I eating this food? So the way the Rosh says it, he calls it achshaveh. I showed that this has value to it. I consider it edible. Why else am I eating this spoiled food if not that I do consider it edible, and therefore, midrabanan, I'm not allowed to eat that. Midrabanan, that's considered as if it was edible. So the question is, even though the tablet is not edible, why are you allowed to eat it? If you swallow it, it means you consider it edible. Why, or else why this achshaveh should come into play? It's automatic.
Because I'm eating it for its inherent qualities, not...
Exactly. So the answer Ramosha says this, and others say the same thing, is that people do lots of uncomfortable or things that they don't really want to do for their health. They do all kinds of things. How many times have you been to the dentist, right? They do things that are not comfortable and not. So the fact that I ate it doesn't show that I consider this food. It shows that I want to get better. I have something wrong with me and I want to get better. So that the achshaveh says is, there's no achshaveh here because my eating it doesn't show that I consider this food. It shows something else. It shows that I want to take care of whatever illness I have. Now that's all fine for regular medicines. But now there's a disagreement about what about when I do a vitamin. When a person takes a vitamin, let's say for example, I take vitamin C in the morning. Am I doing the same thing as what we just described? Basically, I'm taking something for my health. I'm doing it because I think it's healthy for me, so that didn't show that I consider it to be a food item. What do we say is, it's a lot easier to take one vitamin C than to eat 3 oranges, so this is just a food replacement. And if it's a food replacement, then the fact that I swallowed it is achshaveh. I consider this to be food. It's just like a compacted food. Instead of eating an orange or 2, I just swallowed one of these little pills and I got the whole orange together. So that's a question: is should we view this as achshaveh because of the fact that it's a food replacement? Now, the antibiotics I take are not a food replacement, but this potentially is considered a food replacement. So some consider that and say is, therefore, all vitamins are essentially there to replace food, and if they're there to replace food, then there is achshaveh. If there's achshaveh, then you can't have it even though it's not edible.
Now that's where we were talking about specifically about tablets. Mm-hmm. Does that apply to capsules and to other forms as well? Well,
other forms have their own issue. They have other kashrus issues, which is they maybe are considered edible. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that when we talked a different time about gel caps, that they may be considered edible by themselves. Okay, so here we're talking about something that's inherently not edible. And this tablet is actually not an edible item. But maybe because I'm eating it, that makes it that it should be considered edible. Now, within that, we could break it down a little further. And that is, there's different times when this strict opinion, this chumrah won't actually apply. That is, for example, some of the vitamins that I take are not food replacers at all. The thing that I'm taking doesn't come in food form. There isn't a way, I'm not taking this instead of food. You call it a vitamin, but it's not vitamin C. This is a thing that doesn't exist in a food form. So then, in which case, it's not a food replacement. There are other times I take things not because for my general health, I'm taking it because I have a deficiency. Someone has a serious deficiency, they take a vitamin, then what do you want me to do? Should I eat a whole truckload of oranges? It's not replacing food anymore. This is not, again, the idea is, achshaveh means is I consider it to be food. we say, oh, you're taking it instead of a food. But when it comes to a certain point, you say, that's ridiculous. No one's going to eat 47 steaks. Okay, it's not possible. So this is not a replacement for food. This is a treatment for an illness. So the only time we have this concern is when it's something that could have been you could have eaten this in food form, and instead you're doing it that way. Mm-hmm. One last exception is that sometimes these vitamins are not kosher sensitive, actually. Like I have magnesium, or I have an iron pill. Okay, the iron part of it is not kosher sensitive. So it's true that I can get iron from eating a piece of meat. That's true. Mm-hmm. So this is a food replacement, but that's not automatic that therefore it's not kosher. It's a food replacement, but the way I'm replacing the food is something that's actually kosher. There's nothing not kosher about it. But in very specific cases, there are vitamins that we say this vitamin replaces a food. I'm taking it for my general health and well-being. Think about prenatal vitamin. Person takes it, they don't take it because they have an illness. They just want to make sure everything's going right. They take as a general, or a person takes a multivitamin every morning. They're not taking it for an illness, and many things in there are food replacers. So then there are rabbinic positions that say that's considered, there is achshave on that food, and therefore you're not allowed to take it even though it's in tablet form. Again, as we've mentioned in the past, it's a rabbinic question. You have to turn to your rabbi and say, Rabbi, tell me, do you think that tablets should be treated like that? Tablets are considered edible. Tablets that are vitamins, they're considered edible because of this achshave? Well, they're not considered edible. And then work accordingly. Now, it happens to be, there are many purveyors of kosher vitamin type items all over the place. So many medicinal type items.
Much more than years ago. Today, you go to a pharmacy, you see many certified vitamins.
Correct. Yeah. There's not nearly as much as in medicinal items, but in health type, in vitamin supplements, and there's many of them available. And with the availability of the internet, even if in my neighborhood they don't have that, I can order it from someplace else, and it makes it more available for people. So it's a common question people ask: can I take this and this vitamin? And sometimes it's perfectly fine, and other times you can easily get a kosher choice of it, and that's always preferred. You know you're getting something that's kosher without any kashrus issues. Find something with a reputable hashgacha, and that's what you should go with.
Rabbi Cohen, thank you.
You're welcome.